Just setting up at the moment. I'm just putting on some music in the background. Just while we let people join the stream. There's a slight noise in the background at the moment just because my partner's running the bath. But it'll be over in a minute. Anyway, be right back. Okay. I have my water, I have my fight stick. How does everything sound? Hopefully everything sounds okay. So we're just going to wait and see if anyone else is going to turn up for the stream. If anyone's going to watch it from the beginning. Just check everything's okay. Okay. Thanks to Be More Crazy for the host. I never thought I'd say that in my life. So it is 6 o'clock. Well, for me, when I said we were going to get started. 5 UTC. So might as well get this underway. It is a really good dojin game, isn't it? And today you're going to learn how to combo in this really good dojin game. So, the people who join late can just join late, it's fine. If they want to see the beginning, they can just watch the beginning on YouTube when it's uploaded. It's the same for anyone who might want to go back and rewatch anything. You can either do it on the Twitch VOD or you can do it when it's uploaded to YouTube if it's not absolutely atrocious and I need to redo it all. But we'll see. I did a run through earlier and it was kind of okay. We'll just see how it goes. So I am not starting with cello. I'm going to start off with probably one of the easiest characters to play in the game, just to explain the utter basics of everything. So, to start from the very, very beginning, this game is a game with, it does have 4 buttons, but for most of the characters, it's only 3 buttons. We have a light move, a medium move, and a heavy move, or a hard move, whatever you want to call it. Very similar to games like Uniel, Melty Blood. And the chains work very similar. A, B, and C all chain together. Now, for an actual full description of what chains into what, I need to move this. I need more screen space, I think. Never thought I'd say that. Okay. To give you a good idea of what chains into what, I will put it up on screen now. Hopefully I haven't made any humongous mistakes. It's pretty simple. So the whole chain, for most characters on the ground, the chain, the way the game chains, essentially, looks a little bit like that. Into a special move. Although that one doesn't combo, but you get the idea. They all chain together. You can also do things into supers. But you can't cancel special moves into supers. That one just goes into the second half of the special move. So that's important to know. That's going to be our groundwork for everything that's going to come. What we're actually going to be discussing today, not the system mechanics, not anything like that. Well, we are technically going to be talking about system mechanics. Oh, that goes a bit off screen. Let me try and make sure this gets into everything a little bit better. It's all very ghetto here. This is probably a bad stage for it as well. Fire Seal's already correcting me. What are the exceptions for special into super? Yeah, with Doppel. Doppel's a good example. But generally speaking, you can't. Let's go on this stage. It's nice and dark. I say it's nice and dark. It's actually got a... Let's go on the normal stage. That everyone will come to hate. Which is this one. That looks a bit better. So yeah, as Fire Seal is pointing out in chat, there are a couple of exceptions for special cancel, super cancel from specials. But generally speaking, for most characters, you can't cancel a special into a super. So as you can see on the screen right now, we have the basics for how combos are composed in EFZ. So everything starts with the ground string. And the ground string will generally look a little bit like that. I'm not going to go through everything in depth right now. I'm just going to show you each part. A launcher, for instance, that could be a launcher. Launches the enemy up into the air. The juggle loop, that's a juggle loop. You can repeat that a couple of times. And then a knockdown, which could come in any form. It could come in as a tech trap knockdown, special knockdown, or a super knockdown. And we are going to be going over each and every part of this, breaking it down and showing you just how combos work. But before we do that, we have something very, very important to go over. And that is how combos work on a system level. So everything in EFZ is linked to proration. How much damage your moves do, how much juggle potential you have. I will go over that in a second. And a good way of showing this is I just, whoops, that's the wrong one. What I'm going to do, let's do that. Grab my arrow I have prepared, my ghetto arrow. you can see that it's not really seen very well. The power is literally right here. The power is the proration, which if you are familiar with other fighting games or fighting games in general, it's a way of controlling how much damage is being done in a game. So if something is at 93 proration or power, it will only do 93% of the maximum damage. So if a move did 100 damage, it would only do 93 damage, for instance. And this is very important. This is very important to know for a few reasons. First of all, proration is directly linked to juggle potential. So if we do a very simple juggle, you can see the juggle bar right underneath Akane. That is a visual representation of how much time you have until you can hit the opponent or they will fall out of the move. So if we do a move like this, for example, a little bit further back, you can see it runs out. So if I do something like this, I can then tech out at that point where or air recover at that point where the juggle meter disappears. Even if they don't tech, even if they don't air recover, you still can't carry on the combo. If that juggle meter is not there anymore, there's one exception, but we're not going to go over that today. It's a really weird exception. But if the juggle meter isn't there, for all intensive purposes, you can't carry on juggling them. And I can kind of show you something like that right now. So if we do the same juggle loop again, it drops at a point. So at higher proration or higher power, the juggle meter will be longer. At lower power, you might have guessed it, it will be a lot shorter. So at lower power, you'll find that things harder or moves with more startup will not be able to connect anymore, whereas things with very short startup, like the A moves, or some specials with very short startup, will still be able to combo. The next thing to consider is, and it's very integral to getting combos that wouldn't work otherwise, it's instant charge. And this is very similar to Roman cancels in other games. So Roman cancels in Guilty Gear is the best example. It literally just cuts off the recovery of a move. So if I were to do 5C, you can see there's a fair amount of recovery there. Oh yeah, I did forget to mention this. I will be going back over the chat after every section and just answering any questions there are. So I will go over, for instance, Nimblebrain's question in a few minutes. So this move has a lot of recovery. If I use IC, that is completely gotten rid of. And that is very important for things like launching, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do that. So that is basically everything you need to know about the system at a basic level. So just to answer Nibblebrain's question, he's already had it answered in chat, but for anyone who's watching this as a VOD or on YouTube, the question was, so should combos consist of confirm, launch, heavy juggle loops, light juggle loops? It largely depends what you're going for. If you're going for damage, then yes, you can, or if you're trying to go for a good knockdown or a good setup, then it'll be heavy juggle loops into a particular finisher. But we will go on to that in a little while with how combos work in regular matches. So, starting at the very beginning, we're going to be starting with, and I will put this up on screen so everyone knows where we are if they're joining. We're going to be starting with the ground string. As you saw earlier, ground strings are very, very simple. They tend to be A, B, C. as a chain. One thing to consider in this game is that there are far B moves and close B moves. If you use close B, you can also combo into a far B by just pressing B twice. So a full combo would be A, B, B, C. A full ground string would be A, B, B, C. There are a couple of exceptions for this, but we can ignore them for this tutorial anyway. They're very character-specific exceptions. Where am I? So a very, very simple string into a knockdown would be like 2ABC. You get a knockdown. It's not very much damage, it's not very fancy. But then you have more spacing dependent ones, which I can actually show a little bit better with Akiko. Some characters don't have to worry about getting badly spaced from ground strings. Akiko kind of does. So Akiko, if she tries to do a max range 2A, 5BB, 2C, she will just end up whiffing a lot of the time. So it's very character dependent what your string will be composed of, and you should check those yourself or come up with a few on your own. So another thing to consider is that it is very possible and very viable for some characters to just not use B at all in some combos. So for instance, Kaori, who in the corner can jump cancel her 2C. We'll get on to more specifics on this later. At max range, if she does something like that, she finds it a lot harder to actually connect the jump A and the following up combo than she would if she just did 2A, 2C. So it's good to keep in mind that not using B is just as viable in some situations. You'll be losing some damage from the B, but you won't be losing any juggle potential because you'll still have the proration there. It wouldn't have been used up, if that makes sense. Does anyone have any questions about the ground strings so far? Doesn't look like it. And we can always do another question and answer session right at the end, just for anything else that people might have thought up. Yeah, as Fireseal was saying in chat, who's my sidekick for helping this go a bit smoother, is that they are pretty much generic chain combos. The next section we will be going over is launchers. Launchers are the way for you as a player to get the opponent into the air, into the juggle loops. They come in a lot of different varieties. You can get launchers from special moves. Oh yeah, actually that's very, very important to think. There are some moves which don't have any juggle meter, but you can actually still attack from them. They have, I can't remember what it's actually called. Fireseal might be able to help me with that. What the name of it is. But generally speaking, from most moves, if there is no juggle meter, you can't attack them. So, back to launchers. It can come in a lot of forms. They can come from special moves, supers, that throws the opponent into the air. Come from just regular normal attacks. But what you will find is that a lot of launchers are reliant on, excuse me, are reliant on instant charge, which is that Roman cancel we were talking about. So if you don't actually do that instant charge, you can't combo from it. So just going from those simplest to the more advanced. Most characters have a launcher on 2C. It keeps getting in the way. As you can see there, you can tell it's a launcher because the juggle meter appears just underneath. Which means you can then instant charge, which is 22C by the way. The input for instant charge is 22C. And if you want to know anything more about instant charge, all the super meters, you can check. I will post this in chat now, just so people can bookmark it. And for the YouTube video, I'll put it in the description. Where is it? This system tutorial will go over everything to do with instant charge. That's from our Japanese players, Japanese friends, that we've kindly allowed us to translate it. So for special moves, it's exactly the same, using instant charge. And of course, some supers. Now you will have to check, I didn't even get the instant charge there. You'll have to check on your character's wiki or test it out yourself just to see what can and can't be instant charged. Because there are some specials that can, some specials that can't, some normals that can, some normals that can't, and the same with supers. As we saw earlier, which I will be going over once again, some characters have launchers that don't require you to have instant charge. Kaori 2C, for instance, you can jump cancel it. From what I can tell and from what I can remember, FireSeal might be able to correct me, not a lot of things have this property. Not a lot of moves have this property that Kaori has. And it's very powerful. It's very useful. I need to go AFK for a second because I've forgotten something. So I will leave this as a time for people to ask questions. I will only be gone for about 30 seconds or so. So if you've got any questions about the launchers, or if FireSeal thinks I've missed anything, you can leave them in chat. Be right back a second. I'm back, and then I was caught running errands for the, for the other half. So now we know about launchers, we can talk a bit about the meat of combos. And the meat of combos are the juggle loops. That's where you'll be getting most of your damage, that's when most of the time is spent in juggle in combos. So and I'll be using some simple examples of juggle combos first. This is a good point to explain the difference between, or just briefly, because it will go over it better and more concisely in the YouTube video I linked, and it's down in the description if it's on YouTube. And that is the difference between red icy and blue icy. Red icy acts purely as just a Roman cancel. It does nothing except cancel the recovery on a move. Blue icy, on the other hand, adds power, adds proration onto your... It gives you proration back. And it will go into this in more detail in the system tutorial that I linked. It adds 50 proration and is what makes the longer combos possible. It doesn't reset combo scaling, it adds, yes, Fire Seal says blue IC gives negative proration. And what that means is, visually speaking, it goes up to 150 proration, 150 power. It doesn't actually give you 150% power, it will not do more damage, but you will have more time at 100% proration. And that is very, very important for the juggle combos and the loops in this game. Yes, that's very, very important to know. The amount of this meter that you have down here corresponds to how much negative proration you get, how much proration you get added back. So, just to go into some simple aerial juggles that you can start practicing at any time. I'll give you an idea of how juggles might look from a simple point of view. That's a very, very simple combo. All I was doing there was using B and C and pressing up. Obviously this is a corner combo. It still does a decent amount of damage. So if I show you what a more advanced combo looks like, even though I dropped it. Advanced combos use air dash cancels. Something very, very important to know in EFZ is that aerial normals can be air dash cancelled. This allows for things like corner carries like this. It allows you to add more harder hitting normals into the combo, as we did before. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it goes to about, for Mayu, it goes to about 7 jump Cs into one combo. Whereas if we did the simpler version, 1, 2, 3, it's about 5, I think, total, if you do the full combo. So obviously the more harder hitting normals, the higher the damage. Which is why air dash cancels are so important to high damage combos. and they are more advanced because they require timing. There are some characters who don't, for their high damage combos at least, don't even have to leave the ground. For instance, Akiko is one of those characters. Her high damage combos look a bit something like this. And she does not have to leave the ground for that. 6.1k and she does not have to leave the ground. And there are a lot of things you can do with other characters as well, which means if you really wanted to keep it simpler as you're learning the game and don't want to delve into advanced combos just yet, you can do simpler versions of combos. With Doppel, you can do something like this, and you don't even have to leave the ground. It's not high damage, but it will be enough if you're just starting out with the game. So to get onto some more advanced topics, it's how you keep juggles going. In this game, it's not a case of mashing out the juggles. It's not a case of doing them as fast as possible or anything like that, because with the juggle meter, you have basically all of the juggle meter until you have to hit it. So you can do it at any time you want. You do not have to do anything like this because it won't work. Because the height gets all wrong. And you eventually drop the combo for a lot of characters. Which is why timing and height management are so important to the juggle part of the combos. If I wanted this jump 5B loop to work properly, I'd have to time it slightly differently. Something like that. That is a good question. So am I saying that juggle meter is only dependent on power and the previous move that hit? Yes. So long as you hit before the juggle meter disappears, it will go back up to whatever proration it's at. It's directly linked to the power. So if we did something like, you can see it goes back up to blue. So the visual representation of it is the blue, yellow and red colours that you see, and the length of the juggle meter itself. So as you see there, it just goes straight back up. It does not matter what move you use. It does not matter what, well, it does matter what move you use because it will have higher proration, lower proration. But you get the idea, I think. Feel free to ask any more questions if I'm being unclear. The reason I'm using Misaki is that she is a very, very good character to practice juggle combos with. She has a very simple juggle combo with this, with jump 5B. And I will post in the chat now just what the full combo is. I should have had this written out beforehand, but oh well. So that is the combo I'm doing at the moment. I think it's times three anyway. Yeah. So long as you can get it down to 69 power, you're doing the combo right, as far as we have it here. Because if you do it too slow, it will just drop. If you do it too fast, it will go too high. So this is a very good way of practicing. So keep that in mind. If you want something slightly more advanced to practice, you can do something like this and start adding jump C in. Yeah, 69 power is very, very easy to remember. So all in all, for juggles, for aerial juggles at least, the thing you have to remember is air dash cancels and timing and height adjustment. So if you were Misaki and you realise that you've got the opponent too high, you might want to delay one of your hits to help adjust the height. If you were Akiko, on the other hand, you would adjust the height in a different way because she has different tools. So it's all dependent on what your character is and what their tools are. If I can even do it. I missed the jump 5B. So she uses her jump C, which is a multi-hit move and pushes the opponent up a fair amount to do the height adjustment. And because this is the highest hitting part of the combo, skipping the ground combo and the launcher and just going straight into the the air juggles can lead to some of the highest damage in the game as well. So clipping an opponent in the air allows you to skip the proration from the chain, which means you get the higher damage part of the whole combo. And you will see that a lot in Akiko matchups. If I just record this for a second. So just getting air clips is what would lead to the highest damage in the game, essentially. So does anyone have any questions about the juggles in the game and how they work? We will be going on to later how you can practice these combos. How universal are juggles? That's a very good question. If I just show you a couple of characters' juggles, they are fairly universal. So with cello, her bulk of her juggles can be jump C, jump 6-6, jump B, C. Repeat, basically. And that goes for Mayu, not Mio. Misaki's jump C, jump C, air dash, cancel, jump B, C is a lot harder to do. You can do it. Nei is weird. Makoto is another weird one. Her tools are a little bit different. So her juggle looks a little bit something like that. So her height management comes from jump 2C. This move. Something like that. Sayuri can do the jump C, can do the juggle loop we were talking about. Mai is very weird. I will not show you Mai. I can't play Mai. Shiori is weird as well. Misuzu is another good example of someone who has some actually very, very simple juggles. Her juggles are literally five AB, jump ABC, repeat. Very simple. She doesn't really have much use for air dash cancels as much as other characters. I think that's just because of how her normals work. Kano's a weird one. So about half the cast can use a universal juggle. The rest of the cast have slightly more, they have better tools or different tools. As we saw with Makoto, as we saw with Misuzu. But it can be quite fun to explore your character and find out what's comfortable for you as well. So if you wanted something simple, just to go back to Misuzu again, if you really wanted to do a can't even air dash. Look at that. Such a simple combo. If I can do it. I say it's such a simple combo and I can't even do it. Literally 5A, 5B. Repeated. And that juggles. And gives you an idea of what you can do with this juggle system and how free it is. So one thing that I have forgotten is that some people have wall bounce loops. If I can do them. Something like that. That's a really simple version. I can't actually play Ikumi. The two characters I can play who do juggle combos are these two. Something like that. And that is another way that some characters do their combos, their juggle combos. And the best way to find out what combos are best for your character is to either ask in Discord, look at match videos, things like that basically. Just explore the game at your own pace and at your own enjoyment. So back onto the boring parts of the combos, if no one's got any more questions about what we've just gone over. We will be moving on to knockdowns, then tech traps, and then your damage options. Yeah, the enders are coming up next. The jump ender. So, as we saw earlier, briefly explained, knockdowns from supers. So an aerial juggle into a super knockdown might look something like this. And that's a knockdown. A normal knockdown we can show with Doppel. We might do a little bit something like this. Well, that can actually be teched, so something like that. Jump C is just, for Doppel, a knockdown move. The other option, instead of going for a knockdown at the end of your combo, which is not always possible, if you want to get as much damage as you can out of the combo, then you'll want to go for, in some cases, a tech trap. So, in EFZ, air teching, or rather air recovery, is unsafe. You cannot block in the first... Should have had this page open before I... Let me see if I can find it quick. During air attacks. So all characters have 15 frames of vulnerability during an air attack, which is humongous amounts of space, especially if you can cover where they would be teching. So for instance, if we just do a recording on tech, do a normal B&B Mayu combo, you may not have seen it there. Oh, I just messed it up. Okay, give me a sec. Just need to re-record that. Okay. So yeah, you can't actually attack at all during those for initial air tech frames. You can't do anything, you can't move, you can't block, and you can't attack. Thanks, Viceal. Which actually means that if someone techs, thanks phone, actually means if someone techs, they are very vulnerable. And in this game, it's really not something you want to be doing a lot, unless you are certain that you are safe and that you won't get hit. So if we just try and do a... If I don't mess it up. I don't actually have a good tech punish for that. Give me a sec. So as I was showing you a minute ago, I have set a Kane right now to tech. As you can see there, she just literally techs straight into my foot stomps, my bicycle kick things. And that is one way that Mayu catches techs. Another good way. I'm just trying to think of what's a good way of showing... what am I doing? Oh yeah. If I just put the privation down a bit, the IC down a bit. So something like that is even worse for the opponent. Having a tech trap into a comboable move. So one of the things that Rumi does as a tech trap have I got it recorded? I can't remember if it records over. Okay. Oops. Forgive me. So you saw there, Kali literally just text straight into the jump A. Which means you can then go into a combo again, which is why it's so dangerous. And why you want to do tech traps as opposed to knockdowns a lot of the time is to give your opponent the opportunity to screw themselves over, essentially. Now the system tutorial I linked earlier goes into that a bit more as well. So if you actually wanted to, yeah, that's a good point. If they don't tech, then you get a knockdown anyways. You don't have to force a knockdown if you're good enough at forcing a tech punish if they do tech. If you're good enough at covering the tech area, then you're going to get a knockdown anyway, because they're not going to keep on teching into your punishes. They're just going to let themselves fall to the ground. And that is the correct option, by the way, is to not bother teching at all in a lot of situations. But what if you wanted to force damage instead? EFZ's guts are actually quite large. They're quite substantial, I should say. So forcing those extra hits at the end of the combo to close out a round is important. So, actually, it'll be better to show you. I'll just show you in practice mode a second, so I don't have to set up a recording. So if you have, for instance, red IC at the end of a juggle loop, whoops. I keep on forgetting that it's you can force a situation like that. You won't be getting a tech trap, or you won't be getting a knockdown or any setup off of it. But if you are certain that the next few hits are going to kill, you can forego the tech trap and the knockdown, and instead just go for damage. And it comes in different flavors depending on the character. With Misuzu, and characters like her with good jump A's, she can end her combos by doing jump A, jump A, jump A, jump A, jump A. Just to force those few extra hits. And that is very important to know, just because of the guts, as I said. Yeah, the amount of times that magic pixels happen in this game where they seem like they're going to die, but no matter what you do, no matter how much damage you seem to do, they're still on that magic pixel of health. It's just the nature of the guts in this game. And by guts, I mean the how much damage someone takes from attacks is dependent on both your proration and how much health they have. So combos at a higher health will seem to deal more damage. So they might deal 6k at higher health, but at low damage they'll do only 3.5, 4k damage, for instance. And that is just to make it so it's not, even though it is in a lot of cases, not a 2 combo, 3 combo, things are done kind of game. And with that, apart from the next section, which I will be describing and showing you how to practice combos, that is how, everything that I've just gone through is how combos are formed in EFZ. So just to recap, we have, if I just get rid of this for a second because we don't need this. Just to recap, just in case this reminds anyone else of what questions they might have. We have the ground string, which is the part of the combo where the opponent is grounded. Even this is a ground string, jump-ins are parts of the ground string as well. You have the launcher, which comes in various varieties. You have a lot of characters have access to 2Cs. Anything that anything that makes the opponent's the juggle meter appear on the opponent is a launcher. If you can IC it, of course. They come in different varieties, special moves. Come in supers as well. And a lot of them rely on instant charge. The next part that comes is the juggle part, the juggle loop. For Mayu, it looks a bit like this. Her BMBs, and a lot of the characters' BMBs in this game, do rely on air dashes. Air dash cancels, to be specific. Any normal in the air can be air dash cancelled. Some characters don't even have to go in the air for their combos. Some don't have to use air dashes. The last part of the combo is either the knockdown, the tech trap, or the damage. Sometimes the knockdown and the damage are the same thing with supers, but other times, if you don't have access to any supers, that's a tech trap. If the opponent would have teched there, they would have gotten hit. Knockdown and damage with a super. Mayu doesn't actually get very many knockdowns through normals or anything like that anyway. The only way she does get forced knockdowns is if she does her kicks early. These kicks. Like that. But there's no point in doing that. But anyway. And the final part is forcing damage, which we showed you earlier with Misuzu, and doing lots of jump A's. So, okay, yeah, that is very important. The tutorial, the system tutorial does cover this as well, but I will go over it briefly here as well. It takes 8 seconds for you to get red IC, which is the one that does not add probation. 8 seconds of nothing happening. If you are blocking attacks, it will build a lot quicker. If you are RGing attacks, recoil guard, which is explained in the tutorial video as well, it will build even quicker. So if we just do it from the beginning, just to show you how quickly this meter builds, we can watch it build. And that is the meter at the bottom, which is slowly building up in a dark blue at the moment. So yeah, this meter is used for both EX moves as well as Roman cancels, or as they're called in this game, instant charge. And once it's fully red, it will turn to light blue, a light flashing blue, which is when you can then use your blue IC combos. So it is a comeback mechanic. It's as much a comeback mechanic as a momentum mechanic. What you will notice and it will go over this in the system tutorial as well, so I'll try not to go into too much depth about it. When you are dealing damage on someone who has blue IC, they will lose their blue IC. So yes, that is how quickly it can come up. And if you are getting damaged, you do not build IC either, or RF meter as it's called, the EX meter, whichever one you want to call it, it doesn't matter. Now, how do you practice combos? This is the important part. EFZ Revival comes with a lot of really awesome tools to make it easier for you to practice anything, basically. You can take over in replays, so long as they were made using EFZ Revival. You can create save states, you can make recording options that play back as the opponent on tech, on wake up, or just whenever now. So if you really wanted to, I will take you through how I would learn a combo. And this can be used for any game, basically. Any game whatsoever. And this is just for anyone who may be new to fighting games and not familiar with how to practice these sorts of things and what you should be thinking about. So the sections of the combos in EFZ are actually fairly long if you think about it. You've got the ground string, you have the launcher, the juggles, and the finisher, the end, whatever variety that comes in, whether it be tech punish, damage, super, anything. You need to break this down into sections. So what you want to do first is you want to practice the ground string. Make sure you have the good muscle memory on that. Know what your character is capable of. Know that sometimes, your character might whiff on some spacing, so you might not want to practice 5B, 5B. So if you wanted to practice just the launcher part of the combo, just to get you used to recording, using the recording function, check the EFZ Revival ini to the configuration file to see what button you're... I'm losing my words now. I'm glad it's at the end of the tutorial, not in the middle. To see what button it is assigned to. So for me it's H. I've now set to record, which means I can record Akane. So if I wanted to set her to jump, just to practice the juggle sections, do that a couple of times, press H again. So it's got nothing. I can now set to replay, and it will play back what I just did. Which means I can practice those loops I was talking about. So it's all about using the tools that are given to you to help it make it easier for you to learn these things. The other thing you can do is obviously you can watch replays, you can watch match videos, you can check out our streams that we do every Saturday, our casual streams, to check in and see what combos we're doing for our characters. And obviously you can always ask in Discord as well. You can ask us and just say, look, I'm learning this character, what sort of combos would be good to learn? Or, if you're looking for simple combos, you can always ask and say, what are some simple juggle loops that I might need to consider. So it's just breaking it down into sections using EFZ Revival's training mode tools, which are all documented in the EFZ Revival README as well as the configuration file. Watching replays or combo tutorials if you can bear doing it in Japanese, because there aren't a lot of combo tutorials in English at the moment, and then ask in Discord. But anyway, have we got any final questions? Anything you want me to go over again before we close this one out? Because we have been going for an hour now. Don't want to drag this out too long. Either way, it's good practice for me if I want to do these again. And don't forget, this will be back up. This will be up on the Twitch past broadcast section. It will be up on YouTube very shortly, because I'll be sending it to upload after we're done. And if you have any final questions after I've cut off the stream, or if you watch the YouTube VOD and you have any questions, you can always come to the Discord, which I will leave a link in the description of the YouTube video as well. And I will post in... yeah, okay. So for EFC, it has recently, I say recently, in the past sort of 3 years ago now, there was a not sure if you would do a rollcast for it, but call it a rollcaster, but it's a complete overhaul of how EFC runs, basically. It's still the base game, but all the compatibility issues are fixed. There has been training mode added in EFC Revival. And it's essentially a mod of the game. It just makes it run better. And I will that will of course be in the description of the YouTube video as well. Let me just paste into chat what the Discord is as well. If anyone's managed to come here and has no idea what I'm talking about. If you run EFC normally, just the EFC XE, it will not have the EFC Revival training mode options, so make sure you are using EFC Revival. A link to EFC Revival is also here for the people in Twitch. So yeah, I think that's just about everything. Thank you for putting up with my rambles, and I hope that was somewhat useful. And we might do more of these in the future. Depends how the feedback is, depends if I just need to do regular video versions that are more compact. Something that I can go over and fix. So yeah. Thank you for watching.